Most men think women notice looks first. The muscles, the jawline, the clothes, the height, and yes, physical attraction matters, but not in the way most men think. Because a woman usually decides how she feels about a man within the first few minutes, and most of that decision has nothing to do with appearance. It's his energy, his emotional control, the way he carries himself when nobody is trying to impress anyone. And here's the strange part. Women rarely explain what they're actually noticing, not because they're trying to confuse men, but because most of these reactions happen subconsciously. She feels something before she understands it. That's how attraction often works for women. It's emotional first, logical second. I've spoken to countless women over the years about attraction, emotional connection, and relationships. And again, they describe the same experience. A man walks into the room, and within minutes, something inside them either relaxes or closes. Not because of one perfect sentence, not because he looked like a movie star, but because of subtle emotional signals most men don't even realize they're giving off. Today, I'm going to show you 7 things women instantly notice about men, long before attraction becomes obvious. And trust me, number 7 is the one almost every man completely misunderstands. Let's begin. 1. His emotional speed. The first thing women notice is how emotionally rushed you are. Most men think attraction grows through pressure. Fast texting, fast compliments, fast attachment, fast escalation. They think intensity creates attraction. But for most women, emotional pressure creates caution. Women pay attention to pace. A calm man feels emotionally safe. A rushed man feels emotionally unpredictable. And unpredictability makes the nervous system uncomfortable. When someone is rushing constantly, you naturally feel tension around them. Their energy feels unstable, like they're trying to force a result. Women feel that immediately. A man who desperately tries to impress usually communicates insecurity without realizing it. But a man who is relaxed, present, comfortable with silence creates a completely different emotional experience. She feels herself relaxing too. Psychologists call this emotional regulation mirroring. Human beings subconsciously mirror the emotional states around them, especially in attraction. If your energy feels chaotic, her nervous system responds to chaos. But if your energy feels grounded, she subconsciously associates you with emotional stability. And emotional stability is deeply attractive. I remember hearing a woman describe this perfectly once. She said, "Some men make me feel like I need to perform. Other men make me feel like I can breathe." Because attraction isn't only about excitement, it's also about relief. Relief from pressure, relief from emotional unpredictability, relief from feeling judged. And the men who create that feeling stand out immediately. How he treats people he doesn't need. Women notice how you treat people who cannot give you status. The waiter, the driver, the cashier, the receptionist, because those moments reveal your real personality. Anyone can act charming during attraction, but character always appears in small interactions. Women silently observe. Are you patient, respectful, emotionally controlled? Or do you become irritated the moment something inconveniences you? This matters more than most men realize, because women are constantly asking themselves one subconscious question. How would this man eventually treat me once the excitement fades? And your behavior towards strangers answers that question faster than your words ever could. Studies in behavioral psychology consistently show that kindness increases long-term attraction far more than performative confidence. Why? Because confidence without warmth feels dangerous. But confidence combined with emotional intelligence feels rare. And rare is attractive. There's something deeply revealing about a man who remains calm when nothing is going perfectly. Anyone can look confident when life is easy. But emotional maturity reveals itself through frustration, through patience, through disappointment, through inconvenience. Women notice those moments immediately, not because they're overanalyzing, but because emotional safety matters deeply to female attraction. A rude man may still create short-term excitement, but very few women feel emotionally safe building a life with him. And women know the difference between temporary excitement and long-term peace, much earlier than men think. 3. His relationship with silence. Most men are terrified of silence. The second conversation slows down, they panic. They start talking too much, explaining too much, trying too hard to entertain, because silence feels uncomfortable to them. But women notice men who can sit comfortably in silence, because silence reveals emotional confidence. A man who can stay calm without constantly seeking validation feels emotionally secure, and emotional security is deeply attractive. Think about the people who feel safest around you. Usually, they aren't forcing energy every second. They simply allow space. That calmness creates something powerful: comfort, mystery, tension. And women feel all three immediately. One of the biggest mistakes insecure men make is believing they must constantly perform to keep attraction alive. But attraction often grows in the pauses, the eye contact between sentences, the relaxed smile, the silence that doesn't feel awkward. Women notice when a man isn't afraid of stillness, because stillness communicates. I'm comfortable with myself. And self-comfort is magnetic. A man who constantly fills silence often communicates anxiety without realizing it. But a calm man creates emotional space, and emotional space allows attraction to breathe. That's why sometimes the quietest man in the room becomes the most intriguing, not because he's playing games, but because his energy feels emotionally settled. Women trust settled energy. 4. How he handles small rejection. This one is huge. Women pay very close attention to how a man reacts to tiny moments of rejection. Not major rejection, small moments. Maybe she replies late. Maybe she disagrees with him. Maybe she cancels plans. Maybe she says no to something simple. Most men don't realize it, but women are silently studying emotional reactions constantly. Does he become cold, passive-aggressive, defensive, needy, emotionally dramatic, or does he remain calm? Because a man who becomes emotionally unstable over small disappointments feels unsafe long-term, and women notice this quickly. A mature man understands something emotionally insecure men don't. Rejection is information, not humiliation. Emotionally grounded men don't collapse every time reality doesn't go exactly their way. And that emotional steadiness creates trust. I once heard a woman explain this in an incredibly honest way. She said, "The moment a man reacts badly to small rejection, I immediately imagine how he'd react during real conflict." That's powerful, because attraction isn't only about chemistry. It's also about future emotional prediction. Women subconsciously imagine, what would life feel like around this man every day? Would it feel emotionally peaceful or emotionally exhausting? And your reactions answer that question constantly. A man who stays emotionally balanced under pressure signals maturity, and maturity creates safety. Safety creates trust, and trust is one of the deepest foundations of female attraction. 5. His attention. Women notice where your attention lives. A distracted man feels emotionally disconnected, but a man who truly pays attention stands out instantly, and real attention is rare now. Most people listen just enough to reply, but women deeply notice men who actually observe. The details, the emotions behind the words, the little things. Listening is not just hearing sentences. It's remembering details later, not interrupting constantly, paying attention to emotional meaning. When a woman feels genuinely listened to, she feels emotionally visible. And human beings become deeply attached to people who make them feel seen. That's why sometimes an average-looking man becomes unforgettable, because attention creates emotional intimacy, and emotional intimacy is addictive. There's something incredibly powerful about being around someone who fully notices you, not your social image, not your appearance, you, your emotions, your patterns, your energy. Women feel this immediately. And the truth is, most men are too focused on impressing women to actually notice them. But emotionally intelligent men become curious instead of performative. And curiosity feels intimate. A woman can sense the difference between a man trying to impress me and a man genuinely interested in understanding me. The second one creates far deeper attraction, because understanding creates emotional closeness, and emotional closeness creates attachment. 6. His need for approval. This destroys attraction faster than most men realize. Women instantly notice men who constantly seek approval, trying too hard to impress, fishing for compliments, needing constant reassurance, changing personalities for validation. Confidence isn't loud. Real confidence feels relaxed. A man who constantly seeks external approval unintentionally communicates, "I don't fully trust my own value." And women feel that energy immediately. Emotionally secure men don't need to prove themselves every 5 minutes. They enjoy themselves naturally. They don't panic if someone disagrees with them. They don't collapse if attention shifts away temporarily. And that emotional independence creates curiosity, because independence feels emotionally stable. One thing women repeatedly say about highly attractive men is interesting. They often describe them as easy to be around. Not because those men were perfect, but because they weren't emotionally demanding. There's a huge difference between wanting connection and needing validation. Neediness creates pressure. Confidence creates comfort. And women always feel the difference. A man who enjoys his life, his energy, his personality, without constantly needing approval, feels emotionally grounded. And grounded men naturally become more attractive over time, because attraction grows around emotional certainty. 7. His ability to make her feel calm. This is the big one. Women rarely say this directly, but the men they fall hardest for usually make them feel calm. Not emotionally confused, not anxious, not exhausted. Calm. And calm is rare. A woman may feel excitement with many men, but emotional peace, that's different. The female nervous system remembers peace very deeply. The man who makes her feel emotionally safe, heard, accepted, becomes difficult to forget. Because deep attachment is not built only through chemistry, it's built through nervous system safety. Most men spend their entire lives trying to become more attractive externally, without realizing the most attractive thing they can become internally is emotionally safe. A woman who constantly feels anxious around a man eventually becomes emotionally tired, even if the chemistry is strong. But a man whose presence feels emotionally stable creates something much deeper than excitement. And trust allows a woman to fully relax emotionally. That's when real intimacy begins. Not performative intimacy, real intimacy. The kind where someone feels emotionally understood without pretending. I think this is why emotionally mature men become more attractive with age. Because women eventually realize something powerful. Excitement is easy to find. Peace is not. And the people who bring peace into your nervous system become unforgettable. That doesn't mean women want boring men. Not at all. It means women are drawn toward men whose energy feels emotionally safe enough to fully open around. A woman can admire many men, but she emotionally attaches to the man who makes her feel emotionally secure. That's the difference. And most men completely miss it, because they think attraction is about performance. when in reality, the deepest attraction often comes from emotional experience. How you make someone feel internally, long after the conversation ends, long after the excitement fades, long after appearances change. Imagine this most men never hear. Women are constantly observing emotional details men completely overlook. Not because women are complicated, but because attraction for women is deeply connected to emotional experience. The way you speak, the way you react, the way your presence feels, all of it matters, far more than most men realize. And the men women remember most intensely usually aren't the loudest, the richest, or even the most physically attractive. They're the men whose energy felt emotionally different, grounded, safe, calm, present. Because women may forget specific words, but they rarely forget emotional experiences. They rarely forget how someone made their nervous system feel. If this video resonated with you, subscribe for more psychology-based insights on attraction, relationships, emotional intelligence, and human behavior. The strongest attraction is rarely created through force. It's created through emotional safety, and that changes everything.